Welcome to episode 84 of Nutanix Weekly, one of the many XenTegra podcasts with context. We call them that because we're trying to bring our real world experience working with our customers, working alongside of our partners and running this technology in-house and share that information with our listeners. Say hello to today's panel. I'm joined today with XenTegra Gov CEO, Harvey Green. Harvey, how are you?
I am good. How are you?
Doing really well. We've also got Nutanix Field CTO, Jirah Cox. Jirah, how are you?
I think we just created the XenTegra podcast universe, the XPU.
Hey,
may as well call it that. After a dozen of these, we kind of have a universe going on. And we're also joined with, and I keep trying to recruit you guys. I want you to become XenTegra employees, I guess. Nutanix sales engineer, Ben Rogers. Ben, how are you?
Hey, Philip, how are you doing? And I will tell you, if this is turning into a community, I am glad to be one of the members of it because there's some good stuff going on here.
Yeah, I agree. We are pumping out a lot of content, hopefully helping enrich our customers and our partners' lives. And speaking of that, we're coming back from a week. I got to spend some time with all three of you guys last week in person, which is uncommon. We get together every couple of weeks to record one of these, but we actually got to see each other in person. And we had to go to the West Coast to do it, even though we're all based here in the East Coast, in the Carolinas. So we spent some time together at Nutanix's Global Tech Summit. Harvey, when it comes to GTS, how many of you attended?
I don't know. It hasn't been that many. Maybe 3, I think.
Okay. Since you've been there before, what'd you leave thinking this year?
It's funny you should ask me that. So there was something that happened at this one that hasn't happened at any of the other ones that I've been to.
Wow, Harvey, what was that?
For those of you watching the YouTube video, I am so happy for you because you get to see his face go all flush red right now. He's just blushing away. I'm going to drag this one out a little bit. Jirah, what do you think? What was good for you this time that didn't come from any of the other ones you've been to?
First time for everything, right? Big room, a couple thousand folks. It was, so it's our our internal SE and partner SE training and enablement event, right, where we focus on the tech. But who really delivers that tech, right, is people. People actually come first.
Yes, that's a wonderful point. Ben, what about you? What did you take away from this one?
Well, you learn who is making moves in the business. You learn who's learning a lot and getting certified in the business, and you learn who might be partner of the year at these things.
Yeah. It's funny you should bring that up because I do remember that there was a partner engineer of the year that was kind of identified and brought out, over all of the other partner engineers that Nutanix has. I don't remember the guy's name though. Jirah, you remember who it was?
Somebody sitting over close to you. It's amazing how you can work with somebody so closely for so long and then still learn new things about them. You can co-host a podcast with them for just episodes upon episodes.
And I'm hoping everyone listening is just as uncomfortable as I am right now. Maybe.
Why would you be uncomfortable? We're just talking about what happened last week.
Yeah.
I was going to say, maybe not as beat red as I am right now, but, certainly have to be uncomfortable listening to it.
Harvey, you want to put the man out of his misery?
Honestly, I want to put him in a little more misery. I'll make him say it.
Wow. Whoa, that's low there.
Well, okay. So I was very surprised, at GTS last week, as Jirah said, we all got together, all the engineering side of the house, both internal, Nutanix SEs, along with...
All right, that's taking them too long. Congratulations to the 2024 Partner Engineer of the Year, Mr. Philip Sellers.
Now, some of us, when that was announced, some of us were not surprised. Philip, you've done strong work, man, for a long time. And I remember one of the first times I met you, I was meeting you because I was, enamored with some of the blog posts that you had been writing at the time, and it was hitting some of the problems I was having head on. So congratulations, not surprised, but man, very well deserved. And congratulations on the award, Philip. You definitely deserve that, man. What were some of the stats they said again? I think 4 certifications in 6 months, or was it 6 certifications in 4 months?
I did 4 certifications in 6 months after I joined XenTegra. A lot of things like this great podcast that I get to participate in. I didn't start this. There was a foundation before that, and it is a huge honor. I'm humbled by the honor and was surprised by the honor, but there were other people definitely before me, and there's a team of people that make stuff like this happen. So I really am genuinely surprised, but also excited and happy. I mean, that's a once in career kind of thing. If it never happens again, it was really, really cool, and I was happy to get that honor with a good partner, someone who's been a great partner to us too. So thank you guys. I appreciate it.
And Ben, some of us were surprised because I looked up there and like, holy crap, they spelled my name wrong.
I think Harvey, I think CEOs are ineligible. So sorry about that. Heavy is the crown. So I think that officially makes us an award-winning podcast.
Yes.
So
yes.
All right.
On that note,
Yeah.
It's a podcast that has won someone awards.
So it's adjacent, right? It's award adjacent or
close enough.
Something like that. In all seriousness, note, I mean, this was a very different year when we got together. I mean, I was there a year ago, and besides the award, this was a very different year. There was a lot more faces, a lot more Nutanix employees, a lot more partners present. The thing that I left realizing is that the community here has grown, and there's a recognition of opportunity and a recognition that the technology that Nutanix is putting out there is solving people's problems, and by doing that, there's tons of opportunity in the marketplace. That's kind of what I left with. I mean, I am curious, and I meant that question seriously before Harvey jumped me. I mean, what did you think? I mean, like, what did you see? Because I know we talked a little bit on the way back.
Yeah, I mean, I see honestly a lot of innovation coming, and a lot that is both coming out and has been put out over the course of the time that I've been supporting and talking about Nutanix as a whole. The whole conversation that we always end up at talking about how it's a platform is very, very much recognized, and they're definitely leaning into that, which I really appreciate. I've said before that Nutanix is the technology that I would have wanted at the time that I was the person in charge of doing it. I never got the chance then, but love that I have the chance now to interact with it as much as I do, and interact with the team as much as I do. So I'm very appreciative of that.
Yeah, I shared with Harvey on the travel back, and I call this my one day in Durham story. I joined XenTegra in November of 2022, officially on November 1st, but unofficially, I kicked off a day early to come in and get my equipment and then fly to a customer. And then a week or so later, we were with that same customer at an EBC in Durham. And, Harvey been telling me for a long time, you just don't understand. It's more than that. It's not at just HCI. You really need to dig in here. And during that one day in Durham, I got to dig in. And that's all it took for me to become a believer. It was pretty evident quickly how much more value there was. Hyperconverged was just a small piece of the overall story. And although everything kind of ties back into that storage layer, it really is a valuable platform. So I do love hearing that message, and that was one of the things that got said. I mean, what sticks out for you, Jirah, from last week?
I think I agree with you there for sure, right? That, I mean, I've been in Nutanix themed conversations now for close to a decade, and for sure, like the storage difference used to be the vast majority of the conversation, right? And I love actually now how that's not even like top 10 things that are most interesting about us when looking at a platform to like run your apps, store your data, really take you to the cloud, from the cloud, between clouds, anything you want to do with us. The way we do storage is still meaningful, still crazy performant. I still love doing like the face melting POCs. That never gets old, but that's really a byproduct, right? So yeah, fully agree with all you guys. I led a session last week about using our S3 storage for hosting data and servicing apps. And the best feedback that I got was that I made S3 storage interesting. And I'll take that as a solid win.
Yeah. Ben, I saw you across the room. We were in a Kubernetes session together. What did you see from that app story portion of where things are going?
Well, I want to answer your first question because this is where I see it, 2 years in. Man, a lot of times we're compared to our competition. It's always, Nutanix compared to this, Nutanix compared to this, whether it be comparing us to storage, whether it be comparing us to hypervisor. That's really kind of where I feel like it lands sometimes. And what this GTS kind of showed me is, man, we're really starting to prop up on our own story. What we got coming down the path with, automation, containers, AI, we're really starting, in my opinion, we're starting to stand on our own and go, we're beyond what our competitors can do at this point. I mean, yes, we can compete directly against storage and hypervisor vendors, but when you look at the platform and everything we bring to it and what they're developing on it, some of the stuff we're doing with AI is really going to be cool, man. And we're partnering with some of the best in the business on the chipset. So that's kind of what I brought away from GTS is you're now starting to see we got some swagger behind us. We've got some large customers that are coming our way and starting to really buy into our technology, which is giving, our opportunity to kind of show what we can do at a large scale and to scale out. So that to me was really the big message to it's not about the competition for us anymore. It's about who we are and how we solve our customer problems. And that's going to make competing against our competitors easy, in my opinion. As far as the app stuff, we've acquired a new company. I'm still trying to wrap my head around exactly, what that company is going to do for the platform. I think we're early in the infancy. But when you listen to the people that have been acquired by that merger, I mean, these are guys that are sitting beside the Google developers, and they're developing the platform around people that have, created this technology. And now they're on board on our team, and we now have direct resource to them. I met two individuals there. I can't remember their names, but I will definitely search them out now that I'm back and going through my notes. But they're individuals I go, hey, these have been players in the infancy of these technologies. They understand this nuts and bolts. They're part of the organizations that are kind of guiding the compliance of where this is going. That's a good thing for Nutanix, in my opinion, man. When you can bring that kind of brain power into your organization, absorb their technology into ours and make it better, and then hear them be excited about joining our company, man, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's not just comparing you to another vendor at this point. You're doing things that stand out in your own right. Um, and I think that's a good segue into the blog post we've got for today. We wanted to talk a little bit about Nutanix Validated Designs, Blueprints for Success. That's the name of the blog post we've got for review today. It's written by Keaton Moda. Shout out to Keaton, and I hope I didn't butcher his name. I hope that's actually the correct pronunciation. But we appreciate everybody that's putting out content and stuff for us to talk about. This is a really interesting one because the validated designs really helps us to put something in front of a customer that's been tested, that is a blueprint for success. Walking in and talking to a new customer, I mean, it's tough. Matching a use case back to a technology solution. So these validated designs are good building blocks to start from. Jirah, I mean, how do you think about the NVDs, the Nutanix Validated Designs?
I mean, I'd say to all the technical bloggers out there that if you also have an interesting name and want to hear Philip read it on the air live with no prep and no rehearsal, consider submitting your blog to the Nutanix blog. And you too? No, I'm just kidding. I think you got Caton's perfectly correctly. What do I think about NVDs? That was the question, actually. Sorry, I needed to punch it up there. So I love the graphic here we use to introduce the NVDs at the top of the article here. It's showing NVDs at the top of this triangle, this larger pyramid of layers below it, because it really kind of shows how we work with customers and think about stuff like a design. So that base layer, right, of course, we call out certifications, supported configurations, stuff like compatibility matrices or hardware compatibility lists, really just basic stuff. Like someone tested it in a lab, it works, it passed their sort of, let's call it an intentionally narrow gate for like, does this work, not work, right? As a product, as an interoperability thing, as a compatibility layer works, right? From there, you move up into things that are like sort of more opinionated, but also more thoroughly tested, right? So stuff like a best practices guide, right? So the bottom layer is almost like what you could do. Best practices layer up one layer is like things that you probably ought to do or ought to consider or ought to have a really strong reason for not doing if you're going to ignore like a best practice there. On that same level, we call it the tech notes, right? Which is kind of more like a miniature design that if you were, say, if you knew a technology, call it your favorite flavor of like database or application platform, but you were like, I know this thing pretty well, but how does it work on Nutanix, right? What should I change? What should I consider? What should I think about? The tech note's there for you to say it's sort of like application-focused guidance on stuff like configuration, deployment, operations, procedure, stuff like that. One more level up from that, the reference architecture. Now you're getting into, this is really like your skeleton of like, you should consider building things this way. And the reference architecture, of course, is great. At the top, right, these all meet at the Nutanix Validated Design, right? The NVDs, where it's more like, this isn't just works on paper. This isn't just, 10 different tests all done in the lab, but separately. This is, if we're calling it an NVD, someone has actually built this all the way. We say it runs 7,000 VMs. Someone put 7,000 VMs on it and tested it and then did all the things with it, fully validated, right? In one sense, it's sort of in the name, but in the other sense, it's easy to overlook. Combining all the goodness of a reference architecture, of the best practices guide, of the tech notes, right? It's kind of the batteries included design, right? Up to like an MPX level, our smartest folks sit down and think the very deepest of deep thoughts around how would you design this, deploy this, operationalize this, and then vend it to the business. Put that all together in a huge document, and that becomes the Nutanix Validated Design, where if you build it this way and run it this way, it's validated and going to work for you.
Yeah, I mean, so when you think about a validated design, I mean, what's the business outcome that you're driving? Go ahead.
No, I would say two outcomes right off the bat that we get to faster with customers. One is just flat out customer confidence, right? Some folks meet us, right, in that first meeting, and they're like, Nutanix who, right? And so when we can say, actually, it's Nutanix, and actually, this is how you would design for an active data center across, a metro boundary within a geographic area and have the outcome of like an entire data center goes dark and all your workloads auto resume. By the way, here's how you do that, right? And then the other one being that even when we go to do a design for customers, even we internally and of course partners too have this to leverage to say, maybe I need to tweak this for my customer's design or my specific requirements. But the bones of this are going to be fully reusable and are still going to help me drive towards or help me inform my own design decisions with my customer for my specific environment and example. So faster confidence and more confidence for customers and quicker designs that we can produce for our customers as well when we are in the room and engaging with them.
Yeah, and I think time is money, right? I mean, at the end of the day,
I've heard that.
speed to, well, I mean, it's faster return on investment, right? It's faster outcomes.
Well, for the,
I can't help but see the graphic you're referring to here, and I mean, it's kind of like the food pyramid, right?
Yeah.
An NVD at the top. So,
but you got to think from a customer perspective. This is where I really like the NVDs. Is as a sales engineer sitting down, either talking with an existing customer about taking a next step. They want to expand their installation. They want to do, they want to get in the cloud, or with a white space customer that has no idea who Newton's or whatever we pronounce it is. This is a good way for me to sit down and go, hey, let me show you some proven recipes that we've used to help our solutions help our customers come with solutions. And so a lot of times this might be a starting ground for me to start my conversation, especially with the tech people of here. I always like to say, let me show you the proof in the pudding so that when you bake the pudding, you know it's going to be good. This is where we start. And a lot of engineers appreciate this. You get these RFPs and they have all these requirements. Sometimes we can take these NVDs and mark them directly to the requirements and go, here, this requirement, we slash it with NVD this. And so from a sales engineering perspective and working with other technologists that are looking to procure and purchase equipment solutions, IT solutions, these are very good, man. These are very good roadmaps and what I call recipes to how we deliver our solutions.
Yeah, I agree. The other thing, that you might think, when you hear a Nutanix validated design is, oh, well, this is soup to nuts, a very opinionated, very Nutanix kind of thing. But that's not actually the case, is it? These are often created around partner solutions, partner ISV software. And so when you look at the NVDs that we currently have available, I mean, there's one for Citrix, there's one for OpenShift from Red Hat, as well as, the soup to nuts Nutanix type things like disaster recovery. So it's not just a Nutanix thing, it's also integration with your key software partners as well.
Spot on. Yeah. Private cloud, hybrid multi-cloud, cloud DR. For customers that are looking to like drop a data center and use cloud as a DR target, with stated preferences for hardware, but hear me say hardware as like capacities, right? Like pick CPUs of this shape, pick memory of this capacity, not go pick this vendor, go pick this node, pick this logo. They're really reusable and applicable across really whatever your chosen flavor of hardware is.
So as we look at the design, well, let's dig a little bit more in there. What is the actual design? What do you get as a deliverable when you look at and go to one of these Nutanix validated designs?
Yeah, so I like that. So kind of sort of in the inventory list, right? You get to read it for the audience real fast. You get the design guide, interoperability, and functional validation. My favorite part of it, performance and scalability testing, right? If you go build it, here's the actual, to use Ben's analogy, here are the tasting notes that you should see in the finished product, right? So when you go build it a certain way, and then you go to test it, these are the results you should expect. Software, it even specifies like software versions of like AOS to load on. What did we do when we validated it? Your sizing template. So if you need bigger or smaller, what are the ways to think about that and how to adjust it for your design? Like doubling or halving a recipe. I can stick with a theme. Analysis of TCO and ROI. So like, why would you consider doing this? What are the compelling business drivers behind it? And the deployment guide, how do you build it, right? So then to your point, Philip, you were asking about, so what do you get in the design guide, which is one of only, a bunch of components here of an NVD. In the design guide, you're really getting, I kind of said it before, like an MPX level, like an absolutely master design level session of like, we're making this decision. Here's the justification for that, right? We're going to deploy, with DHCP, or we're going to deploy with RF2, and here's my justification for that design decision. And all these things are fully documented with the same thing we would do with our customers for a candidly very high dollar, high value design engagement if we did it custom for them, right? Around what are your assumptions, requirements, design, risks, constraints that are, none of us get to go design and sell a solution on a fully blank canvas, like no constraints, right? There's always hardware reuse, network reuse, price constraints, availability requirements, risks from having to interoperate with other things in the environment. And this is also a realistic kind of design that incorporates a lot of those elements as well.
I sat in on a session, we talked about Nutanix Validated Designs last week. And one of the things that we talked about is, this is a great starting point where a customer can feel confidence without having to do their own POC, without having to do their own testing, because, this has gone through probably a greater amount of testing than a POC would be able to do. Plus, it's on the right hardware components, the right bill of materials. How important is that to the overall customer experience? I mean, what are the benefits that come to mind?
No, you're right. It's critical. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I'd say it's critical, and you're right. Like, if the customer bought a cluster, say 16 nodes to run 7,000 VMs, none of us would give them a 16 node POC. No one has that hardware laying around, nor would they go build 7,000 VMs, right? But to your point, like, it absolutely is tested in a more rigorous way than the average POC is. There's no, let's just test a little bit of it and assume it scales up. It's let's build it at scale and then test it as a methodology. Go ahead, Harvey.
Yeah, I was just gonna comment on two very big things that come out of this. We've kind of already talked about. One is predictability, especially when you look at what Jirah highlighted around performance and scalability testing. You aren't just talking about, hey, what if we do this? What happens? We're actually looking at, hey, if we make this decision and if we do it with this decision point, this is what performance looks like. Versus if we do it with this decision point, this is what it looks like. And oh yeah, this is, how big it'll scale if we go this way. And if we add one more node or we do this one other tweak, this is what that will look like. The ability to go and have that sort of testing, that sort of published result, to be able to do that out of the box based on what's already set up for you, what's already published, what's already there, I think is huge from a customer standpoint, because they're not going to have time to test like this. They're not going to have, forget, yes, resources are important. Yes, the ability to go in and say, well, we're going to try out 16 nodes on a POC. That all sounds, way bigger and, in some cases sort of a pipe dream as to what you want to try to test. But even if you put all that aside, let's say it just furnished you with all the hardware you needed for your POC, you can't invent time. And the ability to have something like this that is already validated, that you already know has gone through, way more engineers than you probably have on staff. And have something in front of you that can be a turnkey solution for you for your build out, that is hugely important from a customer standpoint. That would make a difference for them from day one.
So I can give you a really good real world example of how these things really come into play and how they're a benefit to the process. We have a customer that's looking at doing DR and AWS. They haven't purchased any AWS yet. They're really doing all the research they can. When we were able to present the validated design with them, one of the things that was in the validated design is how do we scale out? They were asking questions about how exactly do you add more nodes? Everything they had seen in the demos was all manually driven. They were like, well, you're not going to have anybody that can go in and add a node like that. Well, in the validated design, it had some of the scripting of how we go about adding a node automatically. What are the thresholds that we look at? When those thresholds are met, what scripts are launched against the environment? And this is something that we were able to produce in front of the customer and goes, here's how it will work. And now the customer goes, all right, I see exactly the steps that are going to be involved in this. This is my pseudo run book already in place. All I've got to do is purchase and then implement. So it's giving the customers confidence that what they're looking at is going to work. It's been validated, it's been tested, yada, yada, yada. I haven't experienced this second piece, but I have heard through the grapevine that some of our customers have taken some of these NVDs and actually turned them into RFPs and just took out Nutanix and said, we want an environment that can perform this scale at this hardware value. And so I think that's interesting too, when you see our NVDs being put as RFPs for potential purchase.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much the easy button for those people because they have something that they can actually go out that they know will work, and it will give them an expected result, and they can copy and paste it into, hey, this is what I want. Please bid on this because this is what I want. And from that standpoint, to be able to take something that you don't necessarily know the ins and outs of everything about it, and then be able to just put that together, I know that I will get the correct outcome if I do these things and get this hardware and configure it this way, then that's a big win. Again, you can't invent time. So being able to take something like this and put it out there and get what you need and get a certain level of confidence in the predictability of what you'll receive, that's what you want.
Well, that's the right word in my opinion, Harvey, is, it's the same thing when you walk into a dark room and you flip the light switch. What do you have? You have confidence the light will come on. And that's the same kind of confidence that an NVD can drive at the end of the day. It's that expected outcome that you can do. One of the other things that you called out, and I do want to kind of circle back to it, is scale. And we've done a number of POCs in our past, and you and I have worked on things together. We can do things at small scale that work.
Yes.
But what happens when you triple or 10x or 20 or 30 or 40x that POC? What sorts of things have we seen happen in those environments?
Yeah, I refer to that time as this is what happens when it gets real. There are all kind of warts that you can cover over, when it's 20 or 30 users, or when you've only migrated over, 5 or 10 servers. Like, there are all kinds of things that you either won't see, or you can take, some very little workaround to get past and not have to worry about it anymore. Just check off the box when it's that small. But when we get to the point, to your point, where you're scaling at 20x, 100x, whatever that is, when you already have something in front of you that says, if you scale it this way, you can expect these results, there's much less, I guess I'll go with the word guessing, right? It takes the guessing out.
Things don't get as real.
Well, I'm not necessarily saying that. I do think it's real. I do think it's been validated. But everybody has a chance. I mean, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, right? That's just how it is. This is a validated design that was validated in an actual environment, in a real environment, with real configuration and real results and real documentation. That does not necessarily equal your own environment. So while it can give you confidence and predictability that if you do these things will work, if you have something in your environment that always makes things run amok, then you at least have the ability to look at something and say, okay, if I do this, then I get these results, but I know this thing is crazy. So let me just put a little more, resources here, or let me, do this thing or whatever that is in your environment to avoid whatever it is that you've been, running away from, if there is something. But again, being able to do that based on something you already know is validated, and takes things like that, not necessarily that thing, but takes things like that into consideration. Again, that's a huge difference and a great head start into getting it to the point where it becomes your own validated design running in your environment.
So not only are we an award-winning podcast, but I think Harvey may have just taken us into territory where we need a parental advisory because of the mouth punching. So
I was like, wait, what did I say?
Rated B for violence.
Rated B for violence.
One of the other things, though, is like there's territory that's still brand new, and so when I look at this, design portfolio, you look in the first column, the third row, we're already doing NVDs for AI and machine learning. I mean, this is still, very hot ground. And so for me personally, if I was a customer and somebody from Nutanix came in and said, hey, we have an NVD for AI and ML, I would want to see it just to educate myself on the process, including, just learning about AI and ML in itself, much less how Nutanix does it. I do want to segue to the other part of this article that talks about the success stories that we've had with NVD. And one of the things, if you read these success stories, you'll hear some of the same words that we're using, like the last example, the last sentence there, being able to architect and deploy as a tried and tested stack also helped to avoid guesswork. We talked about that, and accelerate time to value. So again, proof's in the pudding. This is a recipe for success, and we're seeing this work over and over again in our customer installation. So I really think that this part of the article really puts all of the meat and potatoes together. And again, it's using the same language that we've been using the whole time during this of why are NVDs so valued to our company.
You're talking about the customer success stories. Something else stuck out to me as I went through these. There's 3 customer success stories. A global technology company, a global retailer, and a large public sector organization. All 3 of these, it's not a one-size-fits-all NVD story. It's not like they took one off the shelf and said, we're doing this. In 2 of these examples, they've used both the hybrid cloud on-prem NVD and then the database NVD. And in another, they use the hybrid cloud NVD, unified storage, and OpenShift NVD to meet their goals. So there's a lot of flexibility, it seems, in the way that you go to market with the NVDs. I mean, is that something you see often as you're talking to enterprise customers, Jirah?
Oh, totally. I mean, in our largest customers, right? Like you'd expect on any technology stack or in any cloud, you tend to get large workload pods, right? And so the way that like you would really kind of glue these together is here's what my standard server kind of pods look like, and they have one shape. Container workloads may be different, and then of course unified storage different still, but these can all share like say a common management layer or framework, or be hosted in a common management cluster. So lots of ways that you could find the intersectionality of all of these and make them together into say, these are all the pieces of my one singular, data center design.
Yeah. And then you were talking about the enterprise edge with AI and ML validated design. We talked a lot last week about GPT in a box and some of the other things that are still developing. GPT in a box is an interesting one. We've had a few customers reach out after Nutanix announced the GPT in a box. So, I mean, this is a area of really intense customer interest. How are discussions going kind of in your realms?
Well, one thing people are, concerned about is that most of the AI technologies that are out today are cloud-based. And some customers are not really hip to putting their, enterprise data out in the cloud, specifically healthcare, man. We've seen a lot of healthcare customers go, we want the ability to do AI, but we don't want to present that to a cloud service. This solves that problem. And now we can run private AI infrastructure inside the four walls of the company, allow them to digest their data, mine their data, do whatever AI, ML executions they want to do on it, and still keep it protected from the outside world. So again, this is where we're really seeing the rubber meet the road for us, is having these clusters that are multifaceted. You know, you were talking about, you see multiple NVDs in one solution. One of the things I'm very proud of our clusters is they can be multi-purpose. Our clusters can run files, containers, traditional VMs, all on one platform and within the single cluster. Or we have some customers that dedicate clusters to services. They'll have a cluster for files, they'll have a cluster for VMs, they'll have a cluster for containers. So again, the flexibility is there. And we're just following that in suit with AI. The way when AI was first mentioned to me, I got very stressed. I was like, how do I learn to talk about this? I'm not an AI guy. And Pi, one of our customer success executives, he said, man, it's just another workload, dude. Just think of it as another workload. And then you'll start to learn that, man, we just tap into the goodness of the GPU. We're allowing that AI engine to run on top of the cluster and accept these execution points. So again, we're trying to, I don't want to say oversimplify it, but we're trying to have it make sense to customers, and having these NVDs proves that what we're saying is real and we're not just making it up and being pie in the sky.
That's true. Well, for someone who's listening and really interested in what we're talking about, where can they find these, Jirah?
Yeah, so I should call out a couple of really good links there that are in the article that are both great for reviewing NVDs, but also just stuff in general that are not part of our usual pattern of like, go look at these things. So one, we link in the article here to the Nutanix Tech Center. It is absolutely fantastic, chock full of good stuff. Nutanix.com/tech -center, where we bring together best practices docs, the design docs, all kinds of good stuff covering all kinds of products or outcomes or workloads. So tech-center, really, really good stuff there. And then also we link out to the architecture page, nutanix.com/architecture, where you can we do also show the NVDs here, but also workload specific stuff, right? So check this out for things like database designs. We show SAP HANA, Mongo, Postgres, VDI designs, big data analytics. Like if you're wondering, how does this workload run on Nutanix, or what should I build to make it run well on Nutanix? This is absolutely your first stop for taking a look at what have others done, what works well, what's recommended, and quickly getting to that answer, right? To Harvey's point, you can't buy money, can't invent money. No, you can't invent time. Can't invent time. Sorry, that's what Harvey said. He said it a bunch, and I still didn't get it right the first two times.
Right.
You can't invent time, but you
can't
can
even go back 5 seconds to do that over again. No edits.
Okay. We'll edit this, right? One take. And so, but you can read other people's notes from testing and get faster yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. And another quick place to find the Nutanix Validated Designs is inside your support portal. It is linked on the left-hand side. And so all of them are quickly available there. So if you go out to the Nutanix support portal, you can also find them. But this has been a great discussion. I love some of the call outs around, acceleration, around being able to get better time to value, return on investment. Can't get return on investment if it's sitting on your shipping dock and not actually in a rack somewhere.
I know people who've tried.
Yeah,
unfortunately, you can't get value out of something that's not turned on and running. So we do love these as a starting point or as a validated way of operating. I can't think of anything else. This is fast, secure, scalable, and confidence. Those are the words I would say, stand out after our discussion today, guys. I really appreciate you joining me for the discussion. NVDs doesn't sound like all that exciting of a topic, but this is pretty cool stuff. This is where it gets real, just to quote Harvey.
That's right.
Guys, I do appreciate it. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next podcast.
And congrats again, Phil.